Hello, friends. Welcome to Clearly Focused. I'm your host, Kaylee Ely. It has been too long, too long, you guys. And I want to apologize again for kind of disappearing on you. But I am very excited because I think I have a workflow figured out. And I know we're going into busy season. If you're not already in it, it is October 1st here, which is my favorite month. So we are officially in busy season. It started like September, end of August, really, honestly. But now that we are getting into busy season, I'm like, okay, I gotta hunker down on my workflows and my schedules. And so I think it's going to be good for us. We're going to be here and we've got a new editing system we're figuring out between me and my assistant. And we're getting some YouTube videos up with the audio linked to the video. So it's going to just sound better and look better. I'm very excited about it all. So that brings us to this episode. I'm just kind of catching you up because I feel like all I've been doing besides troubleshooting has been shooting and editing. So there's really not much going on. I am working on a cool fall lunch. I have the merch. It is already, my cat just jumped up here to say hi if you heard her little bells. I already have the merch. It is ironed, ready to go, and I am shooting it next week so that we can get it launched for you guys. I'm so excited. It is going to be a little bit of a smaller launch. I kind of went ham with the first summer launch of the merch, and we did like 8 items, and now we're only doing 4. Well, I have 2 different colors of one of the options I'm very excited about. So anyways, keep your eyes peeled for that. And today's episode was something that I posted up on my Instagram stories. It was the Q&A questions. And I got a handful of questions that I'm excited to answer for you guys, but I think it's going to be good going forward for me to do shorter episodes if I can, more bite-sized pieces. So they won't all be like super long. Of course, if we have a guest, it'll probably be longer the episodes than normal. But for episodes with just me, I personally like consuming shorter, quicker, easier content because then I'm more apt to actually continue listening to the podcast if it's like a 15, 20, 30-minute episode versus if it's anything longer than that. And then you can just binge like a bunch in a day if you want, if you have more time. So we have a variety of questions that we're going to ask from you guys from Instagram that I will provide some answers to. So that's what we've got in store for today. I just love these because it's kind of like a little bit of everything. And again, I get to answer questions that you guys actually have instead of just like picking a topic and going with it and saying, this is what we're talking about today. So we have a good amount to get into, but before that, we're going to start with our 30 seconds of silence. I apologize for the cat bells if you keep hearing them in the background. We are going to start with our 30 seconds of silence. And during this 30 seconds, I want you to just kind of picture yourself at the beginning of your career, like where you were, where you started, all of the questions you had, all of the confusion that you felt, all of the fear. And then I want you to picture where you are now. There might be just as many questions, just as much confusion, just as much stress or fear, but maybe it's different kind of fear. Maybe it's different types of questions. Like just think about how far you have come in however many days, weeks, months since you have decided to try to make this a career, and just be proud of yourself. So just kind of breathe that in for the next 30 seconds and then we will start with your questions. Alrighty, friends, we are back and we're going to get into it now. I don't know about you, but I really do these 30 seconds with you guys. I actually sit, especially if you're watching on YouTube, like you see me actually sit for 30 seconds. But I actually do the exercises that I'm giving you guys. And it was just really fun because I was picturing myself when I first started and I was taking every job that someone threw at me, like no matter what it was, no matter if I wanted to do it or not, I was like, it's a photo job, it pays, like I'm good. Even if it was cheap or free, like I was like, yes, 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 just give me all the jobs. I remember how tired I was, how much I was scrambling around, how I never saw my family, and sometimes it still feels that way. But then I think back to like how I was when I first started, and I'm like, yeah, that was rough. I'm glad we made it through it. Good job for persevering. Anyways, just it's nice to remember where you started, guys. That's kind of the point. It's just like sometimes we get caught up with the whole like, oh my God, my life is so stressful. Like I have too much on my to-do list. Like, is the work going to come in next year? How am I going to pay my bills? All the questions, all the fear that we always have. I never see my family, all the stuff. But then you kind of look back and you're like, nope, it was worse. It was indeed worse. And now we are here and it's worth it. And we're living our dreams. So the first question I have is going to be probably the most vague one, I guess, but it's what presets should you use? And that is honestly a personal choice because presets really, to preface this, presets aren't really just a one click fixes all type solution. It is definitely something that you have to tweak, even if you see these presets and this is exactly what you want your photos to look like. Very, very rarely does just clicking the presets one time and not having to do like any other adjustments make your photos look exactly like the photographers who sold them. So you do have to tweak it a little bit to get them exactly how you want, but it's really just up to you. If you want to do dark and moody, if you want to do light and airy, if you want to do true to color, if you want to do film, there are so many photographers out there who sell their presets, or just so many companies in general that sell presets that you can see like, oh, I want my whites really creamy, or I want there to be like low clarity so everything's really soft, or I want my greens to be more on the blue side than the yellow side. There are so many preferences that you have as a photographer that you just look for a photographer whose editing style is exactly like or similar to what you want to do. And then if they have presets, you buy theirs. Maybe you can slide in their DMs and ask them what presets they use, and they'll tell you if it's their own or if it's somebody else's. And hopefully if they're nice, they're willing to share whose presets they are so that you can purchase them as well. I feel like photographers used to gatekeep presets so much, but now I feel like they don't really do that as much anymore, at least from my personal experience, because presets are presets. Like everybody kind of understands it's one of those things that you purchase, but your work's not going to look exactly like theirs or the person's that they purchased the presets from, if that makes sense. So that's kind of why it's so vague. Is like, honestly, just pick a photographer whose work you want to edit like or similarly to, or has like the closest style to, and get those and try it out. But just know that you'll have to tweak it yourself to get it exactly like what you want, especially if you want your work to stand out from other people. So maybe that means making your images crispy or more high contrast, or if you want your whites to be like super, super high and like very bright and creamy, and then do that. So I sell presets. I have my Tennessee Sunset presets, which are pretty warm, but they're pretty true to color beyond that. Like nothing else gets really edited. That just like, it's pretty warm, but you can always slide the warmth down on the temperature and still have a pretty true to color presets, which is why I like those, because that over the years, I've kind of shifted away from the super warm. So all I have to do really is adjust the temperature slider and there we go. So basically, presets are versatile. Buy what you want, tweak it from there, see what you get. Next question. Best, hottest tips for new second shooters. Okay, so I did an episode a while ago that was all about second shooter etiquette, and I would recommend going back and listening to that. I think you can just search in the search bar, like second shooter, and it should come up. There's even a blog post that I made about it, which is very handy. You can send it to your second shooters as like if you agree with what I say, then you can send it to them as like a little, here's some things I like my second shooters to know before shooting with me. But as for you being a second shooter, being new, that whole episode has a ton. So, and there are a lot of tips to go into, but I'm going to give you my biggest one that like I will say, if I have a second shooter who does this, it's amazing. If I have a second shooter who doesn't do this, I kind of feel let down at the end of the day. So, and that is just knowing that you're there as a different angle / assistant to the photographer. You're not there to get shots for your portfolio. I know you want to, and then like that's kind of the benefit of second shooting, because you get to like add more images to your portfolio. But honestly, the reason that we hire second shooters is because we need different angles. We want the creative shots, the little moments that we're not noticing. And then we also just need help, like a second set of eyes to make sure the veil is right, the dress is right, that the boutonnieres are straight. We need you to go run and grab something for us, or like be shooting the dress photos while I'm shooting the detail photos, like stuff like that. Like you're there to help us and help the couple so that the day goes smoothly. You're not there to shoot your own images. So don't be shooting over the lead photographer's shoulder. Like if you need to hold the veil during the veil shots, hold the veil. Use both hands so that you can be there and help hold the veil for the photographer. Don't be like trying to hold it with one and then shoot with the other, and then just so that you can be getting shots, but then the photographer is like also trying to hold the veil up on the other side that you're letting fall. Like you're supposed to be there for them. So I know it sucks because you're not getting the content that you want, but that's what style shoots are for. That's what content days are for. You can style your own content day if you don't like what other people are doing. If you have a vision, like that's what those things are for. Those things are for you to get content. Those things are for you to add like to your portfolio. But wedding days, you are there for the photographer and then for the couple. So that would be my hottest tip. You will be the most useful recommended second shooter if you are there and you actually make our jobs easier, not if you're there like shooting over our shoulders or getting the same exact angles that we are. Like focus on the shoes, focus on their hands on the flowers, like do the artsy crops where like the tops of their heads are cut off and you're like really tight on like their mouths or like their hands on the jacket and stuff like that. Like we want those artsy shots to add into our portfolio. Like get venue shots, get the shots of the food, like get all of the stuff that we aren't necessarily like thinking of, or do the blurry photos while we're doing the regular classy photos. Like just make sure you're mixing it up and doing like the opposite of what the main photographer is doing. If they're shooting horizontal, you shoot vertical. If they're shooting vertical, you shoot horizontal. That way, even if you're photographing the same moment, it's different formats, different styles. You've got the close-ups, you've got the wides, you've got the horizontal, you've got the vertical, you've got all different options that the photographer can choose from, or choose one of everything and then just make the gallery that much more well-rounded for the client. So that's my biggest, hottest tips. Okay, the next question is, do you have a posing order for couples that you rely on to get every pose you envision? Honestly, no. There are like my favorite go-to poses that I definitely do at every shoot, but every shoot varies based off of the type of couple I'm shooting. Like, are they a more playful, fun, go with the flow couple, or are they more of like a shy, reserved couple that wants more of like the formal, clean shots, right? So every shoot is different, but because of that, but then also like their outfits. Sometimes if I'm doing a 30-minute couple shoot, like an anniversary or something like that, and she's wearing like a really short dress, like sometimes that kind of limits me on some of the things that I can pose them with, because dip kisses get a little weird when she's wearing a short dress. Having him pick her up and spin around gets a little weird when she's wearing a short dress. Even them running around like playing tag, that kind of stuff gets weird when she's wearing a short dress. So things like that, it's like I might try it and just see if it looks okay, but then that might rule out all the other options with things because she's wearing a short dress, you know? So honestly, it just depends. Like I said, I do have some go-to shots that I do at every single session. Most of the time, if you want, like, how do I get my couples started? I fully believe and have seen, because I've tested stuff, like the awkwardness, the level of comfortability, whatever I'm trying to say here. The level of comfortableness that your couple has with you changes based off the first pose that you put them in, at least from my experience. So typically when I first get to a shoot, the first pose that I make them do, like I've already introduced myself. I've kind of walked through what we're going to do. We've gotten a game plan. If they're changing outfits, if they're not, what is the other outfit? Because if you're in a dress now and you have jeans for the second option, then I know I can save like piggyback rides and that kind of stuff for the second outfit because they're more casual. Or maybe they started in jeans, their next outfit is a dress. Then I know I have to do the more playful, fun ones in this outfit because they're going to change into a dress and it might be a little bit harder. So we kind of get a game plan, all that kind of stuff. I've already kind of talked to them to let them loosen up a little bit. But when it comes to actually like, all right, I'm picking up my camera, I always tell them, go ahead and turn towards each other and wrap your arms around each other. Like wrap your arms around their low back, like nuzzle into each other's space and just look into each other's eyes while I get my camera settings set up. Most of the time my camera settings are already ready to go because I've done that while I was waiting on them, or like it's pretty much like similar from the day before shoot, something like that. But it just like that way they kind of like, they turn towards each other, they're focusing on each other, they're looking into each other's eyes, and they're not worried about me taking pictures right now because I just told them I'm getting my settings right. So they're kind of like, okay, Like it's kind of like the warm up, right? And so I usually start with something like that, like have them facing each other, looking at each other, foreheads together. Maybe I'll have one of them turn their heads, like usually if it's a boy girl, then I'll say, okay, I'll have her turn her head towards me and he just keeps his forehead on hers. And then I'll have him like do a bunch of like feather-like kisses down the side of her face and her neck and her shoulder. And that gets her to giggle a little bit. And he's just having fun, loving on his girl, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll move on to a walking one. That I know sounds like a default because like your brain is buffering trying to think of another pose. But honestly, I do that because then it gets them, now that they're focused on me, because like they're looking at my camera, but they're moving. So they're like not just like stiffly stuck there. So I go from like them just being together and in the moment with each other to let's interact with me now, but let's move around a little bit to make it less stiff and less awkward. So those are usually like the first two poses that I do with my couples. And then from there, it honestly just depends, you know, like the other day I was doing a shoot downtown Nashville and I got them into this pose and then a boat came right behind them down the river and it's the Pontoon Saloon. So if you know Nashville or whatever, maybe you should come to Nashville. Pontoon Saloon's like a drinking boat basically. And so they like turned around and it was such a cool shot because I focused on the boat like going behind them in the distance and you could see them in the foreground blurred out looking at the boat, and then he like lifted his hand and like waved, and it was just such a cool shot because it was like we're in Nashville, like you're literally seeing, like we're focusing on what's in Nashville, like they're interacting with what's going on around them. It was just a really cool shot. And so they kind of like interrupted my pose, but I was like, hey, that worked out. So like you can't really have like a boom, 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 like format, but there are definitely go-tos that I do. And definitely like those are usually the first two that I start with. And then usually towards the end, this is kind of my buffering hack. I do the walk towards me once, usually after the first time. That's when I'm buffering. But then towards the end of the shoot, when I have about 7 minutes left, that's usually when I'm like, okay, what have I done? What have I not done? I can't remember anything, and I'm blanking. So I'll turn to the couple and I'll say, hey, do you have any requests? Like things that you guys want to do, whether it's like a pose you've always done together, like even if it's silly or just like something you've seen that you would love, that kind of stuff. And that way I can offer them a choice to make a request or a chance to make a request. And if they don't have anything, then hopefully my brain has caught up by that point and I could be like, okay, well, like, let's go over here and do this. Or like, do you want to do some sitting ones? Because I usually try to save the sitting ones for the end or like right before they change in case the grass is wet or they get mud or something like that. Or I'll just be like, okay, well, let's get a couple more ring shots or something like that. Anyways, so that is my posing order roughly. The next question, the fourth question we have is prepping for busy season. It's not really a question, but I understand what you mean. Prepping for busy season, that is gonna look different for everyone because it's gonna depend on if you're full-time, part-time, what you shoot, all that kind of stuff. Like how overbooked are you? Are you traveling? All that kind of stuff, because some things that help me might not help others. But I'll tell you what helps me prep for busy season is definitely trying to, like, once I am looking at my calendar and I'm like, okay, busy season's going to start in like a month. That's when I start looking at my projects and saying, these are the things I need to get done before busy season hits, so that when it starts, I'm not like already behind, or not even behind, but just like I'm not late on these galleries or like culling these weddings, but like I would prefer to get ahead of that. So that way, when the fall weddings come in, I'm not like also still stressed about getting those things done. So I would just say like looking about a month in ahead to get a game plan. And then usually about 2 weeks before busy season actually starts, like once my calendar starts having a shoot every day, that's when I'm like, okay, longer days. Like I do work 4/10s. So I don't work Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. And it does make for longer days. But when it's slow season, like July and August are usually kind of slow. I don't usually work the full 10 hours because I don't have as much to do. Or if I do, I'm working on back burner projects, like fun shoots, more like back end podcast stuff, like whatever it is. Or I just work like 8 hours, 6 hours, just depending on the day and what all I have to do. So when fall busy season hits, I'm definitely working my 10-hour days, which sucks, but it is what it is. And that means that I am ensuring that I am taking full days off of work. And so that's the other thing that I was going to say for prepping for busy season is making sure you're taking at least one full day off of work. Don't get on Instagram. Don't respond to messages. don't like do a shoot, don't do any editing, like don't even open your laptop. Like just read or go hike or get brunch with your family, like do something fun, take a whole day off, sleep in, like go see a movie, do something where you're not working for at least one whole day, if not two. I say, obviously, I wish we all had 3-day weekends, but for me in the fall, like during like summer and stuff, when I don't have a wedding every weekend, then I get Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. 3 full days is great. But in the fall, usually I'm shooting a wedding on Saturday. So I still get Sunday and Monday off. And even still, like Sunday, I'm a zombie. Like the day after wedding, which I'm sure you guys can all resonate with, I'm dead. I'm tired. I can't do anything. I can't think straight. I'm tired. My body hurts. Like I'm a shell of a human being and I just want to sit on the couch and read or watch TV. I make my husband cook for me or we go out. I'm like, I can't just function. So just making sure that you're planning days of rest is huge. And so that can go into prepping for busy season, is when you're having clients reach out and want to book you, you've got to be really protective of those days off. If you have a wedding and like your only day off is Sunday and someone's asking you to do a shoot, don't do it. Don't do it. Just say no. I know it's so hard, but you've got to protect your time off, or like try to have them come before a shoot you already have booked or after a shoot you already have booked. Ask them if they'd be okay with waiting another month to do it when you have more availability, or you could even potentially go down the associates route if you wanted to have an associate shoot for you if they're like dead set on that day. So just try to get ahead of work as much as you can. Be protective of your days off and just breathe. It's temporary. Just remember it's temporary. Busy season only lasts like 3 months out of the year. And then you have like a 3-month break off. And then you have another 3-month busy season. And then you have like another 3 months of slower season. So it's not like you're fully off work when it's slow season, but you'll be thankful you brought in the money that you did during busy season when it's slow season. So, all right. Last question is email content ideas to send to clients. Again, this is going to be different depending on all the things that you like to do with your clients and the kind of business you want to run. Like I'm very fun, open, bubbly, I love to connect with my clients. I'll email them about like what books I'm reading, that kind of stuff, because that's part of my brand. So you can always email them about something related to your brand. Maybe you like to go antiquing, maybe you like to go hiking and you want to share about a local hike that you discovered and share pictures that you took on that hike or something like that. Just like getting them involved like outside of work related things is always a great idea, just to have them get to know you as a person. So, but just make sure you're sticking to the things that you share that are related to your brand. So, I share about like books, doing my own nails, and like my family, like my dog, my family, that kind of stuff. So like I'm not going to go, occasionally I'll share about like home decor and like redoing something in the house, like house projects that we're working on, but I don't usually make it a big thing. Like I might just post like, hey, this is what's going on in our house today. And then like, that's all I ever really say about it. But like I repeatedly talk about books, repeatedly talk about doing my own nails, like always show pictures of my dog, that kind of stuff. So if you have something like that, just always be, putting that in your client's face, reminding them somehow, popping on stories, emailing them. Other blog or other email stuff you can do is when you post a new blog post, you can email like, hey, check out the new blog. Like we talked, just kind of give like a little synopsis, like a little, what you would write like an Instagram caption about it, and just say, hey, we talked about this person's wedding at this venue. Check out the pictures. Here's a sneak peek, and just include like a highlight of some of your favorite photos from that blog post. You can email out outfit guides or tips, just like, hey, wanted to shoot you a little update on like my outfit guide. Here's the new version of it. Or just an email in general. If it's not like a guide, you can just send them an email in general and be like, hey, with fall family photo sessions quickly approaching, here's some tips for what you can wear to like elevate your photos, whatever, things like that. You can email about a new location you found, whether you were by yourself and you just snapped some pictures on your phone, or if you had your camera and you edit them with your presets, or if you went there with a client. Like I recently had a client take me to a new location and it's beautiful. And so like I would always recommend that to my clients when they're like, hey, where should we do these? I will email them pictures, like 5 pictures that show off the location, and say, oh my gosh, I just came across this gorgeous location. Here's some photos. What do you think? You could basically do that in an email form. Like, hey friends, look at what I came across the other day. Here's some photos. If you ever want to do a shoot here, let me know. It's on my location guide, but just wanted to do a little like highlight of it because it's so gorgeous. If you did a shoot there, or if you set up a shoot there for fun, include those photos so they can envision themselves at the location. You can email about minis or scheduling updates like, hey, like fall's coming, like get your fall minis scheduled, get your Christmas minis scheduled, or like my availability is limited, or I only have 2 more open days in October, like whatever it is, like email them about that. You can email a monthly recap, which is what I love to do. I love to talk about the things that I did, whether it's, I do a little bit like work and personal stuff. So I'll talk about like maybe some of the books that I read, some of the galleries that I sent out, some of the weddings I shot, if I traveled anywhere, if we did any house projects, like that kind of stuff. You can share like a funny video that you saw, or maybe it's like a tip related video. You can send that, or just like a cool story you want to share. You can also email about like an event or a fundraiser you're having. I know right now we just had Hurricane Helene come through. And so there's a lot of photographers doing like fundraising sessions for that, where they're donating all of the proceeds to like whether it's Red Cross or whatever. And so you could email blast about stuff like that. There's so many different things you could do email blasts about, but the point is basically just figuring out a way that you can connect with your clients and emailing them about it, just making sure that you're showing up in their inbox regularly, talking about stuff that's related to your brand, whether it's work related or personal related. And then once you get in the habit of it, you'll start to come up with more ideas and you'll have a routine and it'll just become easier and easier and easier. But those are some ideas to get you started with email content for your clients specifically. So I hope that helps, digestible for you, and I can't wait to see what's in store for the next time I post this photography Q&A. Keep an eye out on the stories because that's always where I ask them, and we'll see you next time.